Welcome back to Sampstra Games, the place to find new strategy games, and welcome to my guide on how to complete all the objectives in the Stalingrad DLC. Today we're going to talk about Storfang and Trappenjagd. So first let's jump into the tactics window. Welcome to the tactics window where I tell you how to do Storfang and Trappenjagd. So the most difficult thing about this entire scenario, in my opinion, is having to destroy the 47th Army unit before turn 2. That's this unit. Now, some of you might say, well, I just attack, right? You can't do that because the unit is going to have a chance to retreat. And if they retreat, they're going to retreat somewhere behind their friend, behind their allies. So for example, either in this hex. And then, even if you manage to push through with your other units, they will just retreat again. And then they end up somewhere here. And you won't be able to kill them before turn 2. Now, in my experience, you actually have time before turn 3, which is kind of weird because it said specifically before turn 2. But in my test game when I played it and I killed it on turn, and I only on turn 3 did it tell me that you failed this objective. But in the playthrough, I'm going to show you actually kill it in turn 1, of course. Now, the way I recommend to do this is you want to attack this unit, make them retreat. Then you want to attack this unit, make them retreat, and then you want to encircle. So you want to place 2 of your units, one here, and then when you attack this unit, it will become cornered. It will try to retreat, it can, so it will become cornered, which means all of their steps will be suppressed, and then you can easily kill them. So I recommend encircle them, and then you'll be able to finish them off. Then you're going to need to push towards Kersh pretty quickly because you have to take it on turn 4. Now you will be able to step on their railways, which auto-supply some of the units over here, which is useful because it might make it so that they won't hit you back. But mostly you just have to push forward quickly, so don't be afraid to use your airstrikes on this, especially these ones that you get every single turn, because you're going to need to be fast. Now, on turn 4, you're going to have Kersh and you're going to have this done. And then you have so much time. You have until turn 13 to get Sevastopol and Khersones. Now, Sevastopol, which is here, has a supply hub. So all you have to do is take Sevastopol by turn 11, and then Khersones will be out of supply, so you can take it very easily. So you don't have to worry about that. Just take Sevastopol by turn 11. Now on turn 5, you're going to get reinforcements, which will give you specialists like pioneers and artillery, which you will be able to add on to your units here, and that will help you significantly in taking over Sevastopol. You also have 2 strong airstrikes. I have used one of them very early in the game as I was trying to take over this hex, because you can take over one of these 2 hexes in turn 1 if you get lucky with your airstrikes, but I got super unlucky. I didn't do any damage whatsoever. So then it took me a long time, but you don't have to worry. You have so much time from turn 5 to turn 11. That's 6 turns. And then to turn 13, there's like the last moment you can take Sevastopol, and Khersones, it's 8 turns, so it's so much time. So every turn you're going to use your 3 airstrikes, then you're going to use your pioneers for your set-piece attacks, or for your suppressive fires or feint attacks, whichever gives you the best results, and you're just going to push into the city. Now, if you could take over Sevastopol, you would outsupply these other hexes, so you wouldn't have to worry about taking them. But I find that it can be quite useful to own this hex first, because you'll be able to attack them from the ground, because otherwise there's a river here. So if you attack from here, you need to use pioneers, otherwise everybody else will have really bad odds because they're attacking over a river. So just keep that in mind. All right, and now let's jump into the gameplay. All right, welcome back from the tactics window, and let's just go through a playthrough, because that's what we are here for. So let's begin. So obviously I want to focus here on Kersh. Now, like I said in the tactics window, the most difficult part of this is to beat the 47th Army, which is this unit, because you don't want them to run away. The way I solve this is by encircling them. There are other methods as well, but encircling them worked out the best for me. You can see I'm moving all around. So now all I have to do is I have to get them to retreat, and then they'll, because they're cornered, they will lose all of their steps, and then you can easily kill them. This way you can ensure that you kill them on turn 1. I have found that weirdly, even though it says before turn 2, if you beat them on turn 2, it seems to give you the objective anyway, which is a little strange in my opinion. But it wasn't until turn 3 that it would actually tell me like, hey, you failed this objective. So I'm assuming it might work out for you if you do it on turn 2 as well, but obviously turn 1 is what the game wants for you. So turn 1 is what we're doing here. Wouldn't be a guide if we did it wrong, right? So. Alright, so you can see killed, turn 1, victory. We did it. Alright, so I apologize, the history mode seemed to have messed up, so we're now at the end of turn 1. So what I tried to do here on this side is I tried to use some of my strikes, because you have some airstrikes on the enemy, to try to push into one of these hexes. Unfortunately, I completely failed and did not do any damage whatsoever to any of the units present, except maybe suppressed one of them. So that was an epic fail. But in some of my test games, what can happen is you might be able to actually take over one of these hexes very quickly. So that can be quite useful, but unfortunately it didn't quite work out that way in this scenario. What you do have to do is you do want to beat the 47 army. Now we're going to try to move forward. We'll see if that works or not. This is now the enemy turn. So they are entrenching themselves because they're trying to stop me from getting to Kerch. Now you do have to mostly focus on Kerch at the beginning. You don't have to worry so much about the other side. So here again, I have a pretty good odds, so I can continue moving forward. You want to be careful about odds, and you especially want to be careful about positioning, because what can often happen is, especially if you use some of these things like set piece attack and etc., your units won't be able to move, and because there's not that much space, you won't be able to attack even if you have units who are strong enough to attack. For example, right now, I can move this unit away, so if I don't have enough movement with the other units, I will not be able to attack. I can move away with this one, but because I had to move away with some of the other ones, I might not have that movement. So always watch out for your movement to make sure that you can hit the enemy. Now, I managed to auto supply these two. It's useful. I wouldn't say it's integral to taking over Kerch in time, but it's definitely helpful. All right. And then I'm trying to move some of the units here on the bottom. Again, I'm trying to attack here to get closer towards Sevastopol, but not really doing much damage over there, but that's fine. Okay, you want to keep attacking here. They entrench themselves as would be standard, and you're going to move forward. It is good to stand on the supply railway because, like, for example, this unit will not be able to hit you at all, which is quite useful. And you will have to stand on the supply railway anyway to get to Kerch, so I would encourage you to do so if you can. Maybe try to keep in mind to have a stronger unit there than I did, because obviously if it only has 3 steps, it's going to be easy for the enemy to kill. But mostly I would say focus on the movement, focus on distraction as many units as you can, I should say. Yeah, I tried an airstrike that did nothing. As you can see, 2 out of 3 airstrikes did like no damage whatsoever, so that was not helpful. But it's just how it goes sometimes. And we're at turn 3 now. Well, actually we're going to start turn 4. So this is the turn where you have to take Kerch. So again, be careful about your movement. Make sure you can get there with your units. Make sure you are sort of moving around the enemy zone of control, because remember, if a unit is standing in an enemy zone of control, your unit, you can pass through the zone of control, which you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And then I'm using my airstrikes to attack and eventually move in with the different units. I got over Kerch. Great. At this one, you are taking control of their supply railway, so you don't actually have to do this remainder of the fights that I did, because they will just get out of supply, so you don't have to worry about that. But you can use it if you want to sort of increase the experience of your units. Now, at this point, we are now at turn 4. The enemy will have a turn, and now we only have to take Sevastopol by turn 13 and Chersones Peninsula also by turn 13. Now, at turn 5, we get our plenty of specialists. So we get pioneers, we get, what are these guys called? 122 MMs, the artilleries, and etc. So this is going to help you significantly down with Sevastopol. Yeah. Another thing you want to do is you want to look at which units will stay in some of your scenarios and which one. For example, this unit will not stay in any scenario, but there is a unit here. I don't know if it's going to show me in the... it actually might not show me in the history mode, but there are some units. You're going to have a number here that says, for example, 1. That means that the unit will stay with you for one more scenario. And if that's the case, what you want to do, yeah, it's not showing me in the history mode, is you might want to take away some of the steps from the other unit, for example, this one that doesn't stay, and then give it to one that stays. So you make the unit that will sort of preserve between scenarios stronger. And the reason why I'm talking about this now is because all these other units near Kerst, they're not really necessary, so you can just leave them here. You can slowly move them towards Sevastopol. Now, as I said in the tactics window, you want to get to Sevastopol. Once you get there, you essentially won because you can just auto-supply Khersones. The way I did it here, the way it was easier for me is I took over this hex, and then I was able to take over this hex as well, and then I could have pushed in because I wasn't attacking over river. I'm also using these like super strong and big attacks. They didn't really do much damage. I was kind of unlucky on that one, but... you're just gonna keep trying. You have a lot of turns. Like you start at turn 5. On turn 6, you get those specialists that are no longer suppressed. So you're gonna be able to do so in. You have like 7 turns. Essentially, you would want to take Sevastopol by turn 11 or so that the people in Khersones are really out of supply. So you have so many turns for this, so it doesn't matter. Even if your airstrikes are terrible, you just want to keep trying to get those good odds, keep trying to suppress them, and then just do a little bit of damage. It is good if you can move the tank, because the tank is going to have some good attacks, and anything that has specialists, like the artillery specialist or pioneer specialist, you use those units to move them around. It's going to be helpful. Yeah, use airstrike. Normally you don't want to use airstrikes on cities because they can turn the city into ruin, which is something that just happened, and then the unit that is in a ruined city gets the best defense. But yeah, and you can see that now I'm giving all the specialists in. I should have done it the previous turn, so I probably forgot. But yeah, you can do it now as well. But yeah. What I was gonna say, yeah. So normally you don't want to use airstrikes on cities, but here the airstrikes are really important because you just don't have the best attacks otherwise. And yeah, just keep attacking. You can definitely do this earlier, like if you have put in all the specialists on the turn 5 like you're supposed to, and maybe you got a bit luckier with the airstrikes, or maybe you have a card that you bought in the previous conference that you can use here. All of that would be quite useful. But like I said, the game gives you a lot of time if you're playing it on normal difficulty, so yeah. Could also, if you're fighting for time, you might want to sort of take away these specialists from this unit. Instead of trying to move this unit forward, which is going to take a few turns, you're just going to click on your HQ and you're going to take this specialist away, and then either the same turn or the following turn put it on a new unit, and that will sort of make it so that you, in 2 turns, you can essentially get the specialist, or in 3, instead of having to move around, because, for example, these guys are pretty far. Yeah, so it's really, it's pushed towards Sevastopol. You could try to, you don't necessarily have to take this hex specifically. If you were able to take this coastal army and then push straight into Sevastopol, that would work as well. For me, I just did it this way. Again, it's not necessary. Just get to Sevastopol through any ways you can, and once you're in there, it's gonna be a walk in the park. And you have to do it by turn 11 ideally, otherwise you're gonna have to fight the people in Khersones instead of just hit them up when they're very weak. But again, I think in this one, if you can get the 47 army in time, and you can get to Kersh by turn 4, I don't think you're gonna lose on not being able to get Sevastopol. You might feel that way because you're gonna be like, well, I wasted 5 turns on this and I'm still not there. But I don't think it's not very likely that that would happen, in my opinion. Of course it can, but I think if you made it past turn 5 and you got Kersh, you're gonna make it to the end. Yeah, we got another city in ruins. Not great because they get better defense, but yeah, you have to try the airstrikes. And you want to use set piece attacks. You want to used. Feint attacks are okay. They suppress some of their units, so they can be useful. And you want to also use the type attack that I currently can't remember the name of. But yeah, just always look at the chances when you're attacking at the odds. You want to check, like, for example, with the suppressive fire, you want to make sure that the chance for suppression is ideally 1 and not 0.4, because that's pretty low. Otherwise, you might want to go for the set piece attack instead. Remember with the set piece attack that you won't be able to move afterwards, so the unit will sort of occupy that spot. So make sure that you have a different spot that you can move your other units into to be able to attack. Because otherwise, again, you'll end up in a situation where, sure, you have 10 units around, but none of them can move to actually do any damage. Also, while they're supplied, which they are at the moment, if you they can sort of I guess unsuppress their own units because they will supply them. So always make sure that if you manage to outsupply the enemy, there is someone who can attack and actually kill that unit instead of just keeping it suppressed. Otherwise, the suppressing is kind of pointless. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Okay, we got to Sevastopol on turn 11, which is essentially the turn you want to get it the latest. We're in. And we got the supply. Now at this point, you're going to notice, hey, they're out of supply. And then it's just a walk in the park. Very easy. At this point, it's very easy. Again, they're cornered. They have nowhere to run. And now we're just killing off these guys moving in. Now I can move with the unit on Sevastopol. So this is, again, the movement thing I've been talking about. But that's fine. Can move in, and then next turn we're gonna take over the people in Khersonis. Alright. Alright, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, write down in the comments, and you can click on the right to watch some other guides that I made for this game. See you there. Bye bye.